2 days before my father's birthday, I received an anonymous letter with no return address. Inside was an old, faded photograph with a handwritten message: "Ask your mother who your real father is." I was confused and shaken. I had no idea what to think until I opened our old family photo album. The envelope sat on my kitchen counter for nearly an hour before I could bring myself to look at the photograph again. It showed a man I didn't recognize standing next to my mother. She looked young, maybe 25, with her dark hair falling past her shoulders, wearing a sundress I'd never seen. The man had his arm around her waist, both of them smiling at whoever held the camera. My mother's smile looked different somehow, lighter, more carefree than I'd ever known it to be. On the back, in faded blue ink, Lake George, August 1988. I was born in May 1989. I'm 36 now, with a life I built carefully. A moderately successful interior design business. A small house I'd renovated myself in a neighborhood that was up and coming when I bought it and is now full of coffee shops and young couples. Divorced after a brief marriage in my 20s, but on good terms with my ex. No children. And parents I thought I knew. My father, the man I'd always called Dad, was turning 70 in 2 days. The birthday dinner was already planned. My mother had rented a private room at his favorite restaurant. My brother Ryan was flying in from Seattle with his wife and kids. I'd ordered a custom-made tackle box with his initials engraved on it. For 40 years, Charles Bennett had been my father, patient, kind, sometimes distant but always dependable. Now an anonymous letter was telling me it was all a lie. I poured myself a glass of wine, hands shaking slightly. Then I went to the hall closet where I kept the boxes of family memorabilia I'd taken when my parents downsized 5 years ago. Mom had been eager to declutter, claiming she didn't need the physical reminders anymore. "I have everything important up here," she'd said, tapping her temple. I'd always been the family historian, the keeper of photos and birthday cards and vacation souvenirs. The oldest album was a bulky blue thing with gold-edged pages, covering the years before I was born through my early childhood. I'd flipped through it countless times growing up, but always with the casual interest of someone who assumes they know the full story. I opened it on my kitchen table, the wine forgotten beside me. The first pages showed my parents' wedding. October 1986. Mom in a simple white dress with lace sleeves, Dad in a dark suit with a boutonniere. They looked happy, if a bit formal. I studied my father's face, the strong jaw, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. I'd always been told I had his eyes, though mine were green and his blue. I flipped through honeymoon photos, their first apartment, holidays with grandparents now long gone. Then I hit 1988, and my heart sped up. Summer gatherings, a 4th of July barbecue. No sign of the mystery man from the anonymous photo. But then I found something strange, or rather, didn't find something. There was a gap in the timeline. Photos from early summer 1988, then nothing until Christmas that year. Mom looked different in the December photos, her smile tight, her body language closed off. Dad had his arm around her, but they weren't looking at each other. I checked the back of the album pages. Sometimes photos came loose over the years. Nothing there, but I noticed something I'd never spotted before. There were small, barely visible remnants of adhesive corners, the kind used to mount photos, on several pages in that missing timeline. Photos had been removed. The phone rang, startling me. My mother's name lit up the screen. "Hi, Mom," I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Emma, honey, I wanted to check if you're still bringing that spinach dip to your father's birthday. You know how he loves it." Such a normal conversation. Such an ordinary concern. I looked down at the strange photo in my hand. "Yeah, of course," I said. "Hey, Mom, I was just going through some old albums and realized there aren't many pictures from the summer of '88. Were you guys traveling or something?" The silence lasted just a beat too long. "Oh, I don't remember specifically. Your father had that project in Albany that year, so he was gone a lot." Why do you ask? My mother had always been a terrible liar. After 40 years of marriage, my father still knew exactly when she'd snuck an extra cookie or bought a blouse she claimed was on sale. That slight pitch change in her voice gave her away every time. Just curious. I found a date on the back of a photo and was trying to place it. I kept my tone casual, though my heart was hammering. Did you ever go to Lake George back then? Another pause. We might have. It was a long time ago, Emma. Right. Well, I'll see you at the restaurant on Saturday. And yes, I'll bring the spinach dip. After we hung up, I sat staring at the album. Then I grabbed my laptop and searched Lake George, New York, 1988. Nothing notable came up, just the usual tourism information about a popular vacation spot in the Adirondacks. I had no name for the man in the photo, no way to search for him. I reached for my phone to call Ryan, then stopped. What would I even say? Hey, I got an anonymous letter suggesting Dad isn't really our father. Want to help me figure out if our entire childhood was a lie? Instead, I poured another glass of wine and dug deeper into the boxes. There were more albums, loose photos, old greeting cards. Nothing jumped out until I found a small wooden box I didn't recognize. Inside were keepsakes, movie ticket stubs, a pressed flower, a cocktail napkin with Lakeview Lodge printed on it, and a folded piece of paper. I carefully unfolded it, a handwritten letter, the ink faded but legible. Diane asterisk. I respect your decision, though it breaks my heart. You're right that we both need to be realistic about the situation. I won't contact you again, but please know that I'll always treasure our time together, brief as it was. If you ever change your mind, I'll be waiting asterisk. All my love. M asterisk. My mother's name is Diane. The letter was undated and signed except for that single initial. I read it 3 times, trying to process what it meant. An affair? A relationship before she met my father? The timing of the missing photos suddenly seemed significant. I slept poorly that night, dreams filled with faceless men and my mother's voice saying things I couldn't quite hear. In the morning, I called into work, claiming a migraine. Then I did something I'd never done before, I drove to my parents' house unannounced. They lived in the same suburban split level where I'd grown up, though the blue siding had been replaced with beige and the big oak in the front yard was gone, a victim of disease a few years back. Dad's Buick was missing from the driveway. He volunteered at the library on Thursdays. Mom answered the door in gardening clothes, dirt smudged on her knees, surprise evident on her face. Emma. Is everything all right? I wasn't expecting you. Everything's fine, I lied. I had to reschedule a client meeting and thought I'd stop by to see if you needed any help with preparations for Saturday. Relief washed over her face. That's sweet, but I've got everything under control. Come in, I'll make some iced tea. I followed her into the kitchen, recently renovated with my professional help, granite countertops and subway tile backsplash replacing the laminate and wallpaper of my childhood. She busied herself with tea and cookies, chatting about my nephew's Little League success and the book club she'd joined. Normal things. Safe topics. Mom, I finally interrupted, who's Em? Her hands froze mid-motion, the pitcher of tea tilted dangerously. She set it down carefully before turning to face me. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo of the letter. Not the one from the anonymous envelope but the one I'd found in the box. I found this while going through those memory boxes you gave me. Who is Em? She sank into a chair. Where did you get that? In a wooden box with some keepsakes. Mom, what's going on? And don't tell me it's nothing. I can see it on your face. The kitchen clock ticked loudly in the silence. Finally, she sighed. That's from a long time ago, Emma. Before you were born. It doesn't matter now. I think it does, I said, then slid the anonymous photo across the table. I got this in the mail yesterday. No return address, no note except this message. She didn't need to pick it up. The color drained from her face as she stared at it, then at me. "Who sent you this?" she whispered. "I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out." I kept my voice level, though my insides were churning. "Mom, is Dad my biological father?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Emma, please. Just tell me the truth. For once." She looked away, out the window to the backyard where the swing set Ryan and I had played on had long since been replaced by a garden. "Your father loves you. He's always loved you, from the moment you were born." "That's not what I asked." Her shoulders slumped. "No," she said so quietly I almost missed it. "Biologically, Charles isn't your father." Though I'd suspected it since opening that envelope, hearing her say the words made the room spin. I gripped the edge of the table. "Who is, then? Is it this man?" I pointed to the photo. "His name is Michael Sullivan." She stopped, collecting herself. "It was just a summer thing. Your father and I were going through a rough patch. He was away working so much, and I was lonely. Michael was a seasonal fishing guide at Lake George. It wasn't supposed to be serious." "But it was," I said, "wasn't it?" She nodded slowly. "For a little while. Then I found out I was pregnant, and I had to make a choice." "And you chose Dad." "I chose our family," she corrected. "Your father and I had been trying for a baby. When I told him about the pregnancy, he assumed it was his. I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth. It would have destroyed everything. So you lied. For 36 years, you lied to everyone." The anger I'd been holding back began to surface. "To Dad, to me, to Ryan," I stopped. "Wait, what about Ryan? Is he?" "Ryan is your father's biological son," she said quickly. "That was never in question. Half-siblings. The brother I'd grown up with, shared a bathroom with, fought with over the front seat and the TV remote, was only my half-brother." I tried to remember if there had ever been signs, if Dad had favored him in subtle ways I'd missed. "Does Dad know about me?" She shook her head. "I never told him. As far as he knows, you're his daughter." "Jesus, Mom." I stood up abruptly, needing space. "Do you understand what you've done? My entire life is based on a lie." "It's not a lie that we love you," she said, reaching for my hand. I pulled away. "Emma, please. Try to understand. I made a mistake, but I was trying to protect everyone. By denying me the right to know who I really am? By denying my biological father the right to know his daughter?" The implications were sinking in, each one a fresh wave of betrayal. "Does he know about me? This Michael person?" She hesitated. "No. When I broke things off, I didn't tell him I was pregnant. It seemed kinder that way." "Kinder?" I laughed bitterly. "Right. Emma, please sit down. Let's talk about this like adults." "I don't feel much like an adult right now, Mom. I feel like a child who just found out Santa isn't real, except a million times worse." But I sat anyway, because my legs were shaking. "What happened to him? To Michael?" "I don't know. After that letter," she gestured to my phone, "I never heard from him again. He respected my decision. Or thought you'd chosen your husband over him, not knowing there was a child involved." I rubbed my temples, a headache forming. "So who sent me this photo? If Dad doesn't know and Michael doesn't know about me, who else would know to send this?" She looked as bewildered as I felt. "I have no idea. No one knew about Michael except my sister, and she passed away 3 years ago. Aunt Claire. Mom's older sister who'd moved to Arizona when I was 12. We'd visited her occasionally, and she'd always given me these long, considering looks. Had she known? Had she seen something in my face that matched a man she'd met once at a lake in New York? God, this is such a mess. I pushed away from the table. I need some air. Emma, wait. Mom stood too, panic in her eyes. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, I said honestly. But Saturday is Dad's birthday, and I'm not going to ruin it. So you have 2 days to figure out what you're going to tell him, because after that, I'm done keeping your secrets. I left her standing in the kitchen, looking smaller and older than I'd ever seen her. Back at home, I went straight to the bathroom mirror. I'd always thought I looked like a blend of both parents, Mom's dark hair and full lips, Dad's lean build and eye shape, though not the color. Now I searched my reflection for signs of a stranger. Were my cheekbones from him? The slight cleft in my chin that neither of my parents had? I pulled out more photos, studying them with new eyes. There was one from my college graduation, me in cap and gown flanked by Mom, Dad, and Ryan. Ryan and Dad had the same build, the same way of standing. I stood slightly apart, my smile bright but somehow disconnected. Had I always sensed it, on some level? I turned to my laptop and searched Michael Sullivan Fishing Guide Lake George 1988. Nothing specific came up, but I found a link to a Lakeview lodge that offered guided fishing tours. The same name as on the cocktail napkin in the keepsake box. I called the number listed. Lakeview Lodge, how can I help you? A cheerful voice answered. Hi, I'm doing some family history research, I improvised. I'm wondering if you might have records of a fishing guide named Michael Sullivan who worked there in the late 1980s. The woman laughed. Oh honey, that's way before my time. But let me transfer you to Bill. He's owned this place forever. A gruff male voice came on the line. This is Bill. I repeated my question, adding, it would have been around 1988. Sullivan, you said? Yeah, I remember Mike. Good guide, popular with the guests. Haven't thought about him in years. My heart raced. Do you know what happened to him? Where he might be now? Can't say for sure. He left rather suddenly that fall, if I recall. Heard he moved up to Vermont, opened his own charter business on Lake Champlain. Never kept in touch, though. Thank you, I said. That's really helpful. After hanging up, I searched Michael Sullivan Fishing Charter Vermont. Several results came up, and on the third page, I found it, Sullivan's Charters on Lake Champlain, established 1992. The website was basic but included a photo of a smiling, gray-haired man standing on a dock. I enlarged it, studying the features. The same jawline as the man in the photo with my mother, the same broad shoulders, though time had changed him. And there, unmistakable now that I was looking for it, a slight cleft in the chin. My chin. I found the business phone number and hovered my finger over it, heart pounding. What would I say? Hi, I think you might be my biological father. My mother never told you about me. Surprise. Instead, I closed the laptop and poured myself a drink. I needed time to think. Ryan called that evening to confirm his arrival time for Saturday. You okay, Em? You sound weird. Just tired, I lied. Busy week at work. Tell me about it. The Seattle project is killing me. Hey, did you decide what to get Dad? I went with those specialty golf balls he likes. Dad. The man who'd taught Ryan to play golf, who'd tried to teach me but gave up when I showed more interest in redesigning the country club's outdated interiors. The man who'd helped me move into my first apartment, who'd called every Sunday during my divorce to make sure I was eating properly. The man who wasn't my biological father. I got him a tackle box, I said. Custom engraved. Nice. He'll love that. See you Saturday, sis. Sis. Sister. Half-sister, technically. Would Ryan see me differently if he knew? Would everyone? Friday passed in a fog. I went through the motions at work, nodding at appropriate moments during client meetings while my mind raced with questions. After work, I drove by my parents' house but couldn't bring myself to go in. Dad's Buick was in the driveway this time. Was Mom telling him right now? Or was she hoping I'd change my mind about exposing her secret? Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. I made the promised spinach dip mechanically, my thoughts elsewhere. At noon, I got a text from Mom, "Please call me before you come tonight." I ignored it and drove to the restaurant early, needing the buffer of a public space for whatever conversation was coming. The private room was already decorated with balloons and a happy 70th birthday banner. I set the gift and dip on the designated table and took a seat, waiting. Mom arrived first, her face drawn with worry. She rushed over to me. "Emma, please. I need to know what you're planning to do." "I haven't decided yet," I said honestly. "Your father doesn't deserve to have his birthday ruined because of my mistake." "Don't you mean your lies?" I shot back, then softened at her flinch. "I'm not trying to hurt anyone, Mom. But I can't unsee that photo or unhear what you told me. I can't pretend I don't know." "I understand that. But please, give me some time to figure out how to tell him. In my own way." I was about to respond when the door opened and Ryan's voice boomed through the room. "Where's the birthday boy?" "Oh, just you two so far?" We passed Dad in the parking lot. "He's right behind us." Ryan's wife followed with their 2 kids, a chaotic flurry of hugs and excited chatter about their flight. Then Dad walked in, looking exactly as he always had, slightly stooped with age now, his hair more white than gray, but with the same kind smile I'd known all my life. "There's my girl," he said, enfolding me in a hug that smelled of the same aftershave he'd worn since I was a child. Something broke inside me. I hugged him back fiercely, not trusting myself to speak. The dinner proceeded with a strange duality, surface normalcy of birthday celebrations overlaying the churning mess beneath. Mom kept shooting me anxious glances. I avoided her eyes and focused on my nephew's stories about school and soccer. When it came time for gifts, Dad opened mine last. "This is beautiful, Emma," he said, running his fingers over the engraved initials, CJB for Charles James Bennett. "Really thoughtful. You know how I've been complaining about my old tackle box falling apart." "I know, Dad," I said, my voice barely steady. "I pay attention." His eyes crinkled with his smile, the smile I'd been told all my life that I shared. "You always do. That's your special gift." After cake, as everyone was milling about preparing to leave, I slipped outside for air. The parking lot was quiet, just the distant sounds of traffic. A moment later, the door opened behind me. "Emma?" It was Dad. "Everything okay? You've been quiet tonight." I turned to face him, this man who had been my father in every way that mattered. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course, anything. When I was born, were you happy?" His eyebrows rose in surprise at the unexpected question. Happy doesn't begin to cover it. I was ecstatic. Terrified too, of course, all new parents are. But mainly just amazed that something so perfect could exist. Even though, I stopped myself. Even though what? I looked at his open, concerned face and made a decision. Even though I wasn't the boy you'd hoped for. He laughed. "Is that what you think?" "Emma, when the doctor said it's a girl, I burst into tears. Ask your mother. I was so ready to have a daughter. And you were everything I could have wished for." Tears pricked my eyes. "I've always wanted to make you proud. And you have. Every day." He looked concerned now. "Where is this coming from, Emma? Is something going on?" The door opened again, and Mom appeared, tension visible in every line of her body when she saw us together. "There you are. Ryan's looking for you," something about getting a family photo before they head back to the hotel. The moment passed. Dad squeezed my shoulder and went inside. Mom stayed, her eyes questioning. I didn't tell him, I said quietly. Relief flooded her face. Thank you. I'm not doing it for you, I clarified. I need time to figure this out. What are you going to do about Michael? I'd been asking myself the same question for 2 days. I don't know yet. But I think I have a right to at least see him. To know where I come from. She nodded slowly. I understand. I won't try to stop you. But you won't come with me either, will you? I can't, she whispered. Your father still doesn't know, I finished for her. So nothing's really changed, has it? You're still choosing your secret over the truth. I'm choosing to protect the family we built. Inside, Ryan was gathering everyone for photos. Dad pulled me close, his arm around my shoulders as he'd done thousands of times before. The camera flashed. 1 week later, I stood in the parking lot of Sullivan's Charters, watching a gray-haired man secure equipment on a fishing boat. My hands were clammy, my mouth dry. I'd called ahead to book a private charter, giving only my first name. As I approached the dock, he looked up and smiled, a professional greeting for a customer. You must be Emma. Ready for some fishing? I nodded, not trusting my voice as I stepped onto the boat. Up close, the resemblance was undeniable, not just the chin, but something in the set of the eyes, the shape of the hands. First time fishing? He asked, handing me a life vest. First time on Lake Champlain, I said. I grew up in New Jersey. Long way from home, then. He started the engine. Any particular reason you chose this lake? I took a deep breath. Actually, yes. I'm looking for some family history. I think my mother spent time at Lake George in the summer of 1988. His hand stilled on the wheel, just for a moment. That's quite specific. She met someone there. A fishing guide. I held his gaze steadily. Named Michael Sullivan. The color drained from his face. Who are you? I reached into my bag and pulled out the anonymous photo, now protected in a plastic sleeve. My name is Emma Bennett. I was born in May 1989. And I think you might be my father. He took the photo with trembling hands. Diane, he whispered. My God, I haven't seen her face in, he looked up sharply. May 1989, you said? I nodded. And she never told me. She never told anyone, I said. Not even the man who raised me. He sat down heavily on the bench seat, still staring at the photo. I always wondered what happened to her. Why she cut things off so suddenly. I thought maybe her husband had found out, or she'd simply changed her mind about leaving him. She chose to stay with her family, I said, echoing my mother's words but finding I understood them better now. She thought it was the right thing to do. And now? Why after all this time? I explained about the anonymous letter, the missing photos, my confrontation with my mother. I still don't know who sent it to me. He was quiet for a long moment, then reached for his wallet and pulled out a worn photo. A younger version of himself stood on a dock, holding up a prize catch. My sister took this the day after I met your mother. When she died last year, she left me a letter saying there was something important I needed to know, but she'd suffered from dementia at the end. The letter didn't make sense, just fragments about a child and doing the right thing. I thought it was confusion, memories mixed up. My Aunt Claire knew your sister? They met when Claire came to visit Diane that summer. They kept in loose contact afterward, Christmas cards and such. He shook his head in wonder. Claire must have seen something in you as you grew up. Something that told her who you really were. The pieces fell into place. Aunt Claire's considering looks. The anonymous envelope postmarked from Arizona, where she'd lived, but sent after her death. Perhaps left with instructions to a friend or lawyer. I think she wanted us to find each other, I said. Before it was too late. Michael, my biological father, nodded slowly. I have a million questions. So do I. Do you want to start with some fishing while we talk? I found water has a way of making difficult conversations easier. It was something my dad, Charles, had said to me once when I was 15 and struggling with high school drama. The parallel made me smile despite everything. I'd like that, I said. As he guided the boat to his favorite fishing spot, I studied his movements, looking for glimpses of myself. We were strangers with shared DNA, a lifetime of missed connections between us. There would be no simple resolution here, no perfect family reunion. Just complicated humans trying to make sense of the past while figuring out what kind of future, if any, we might share. Later, as the sun began to set over the lake, Michael asked the question I'd been dreading. Will you tell him? The man who raised you? I thought of Dad's birthday dinner, of the tackle box with his initials, of 36 years of love that had never been conditional on biology. I don't know yet, I answered honestly. But whatever I decide, it won't change who he is to me. He's my father. You're the man who contributed some DNA, he finished with a sad smile. I understand. But there was more to it than that, and we both knew it. There was the cleft in our chins, the way we both tilted our heads when concentrating, and 1,000 other small connections waiting to be discovered. Maybe you're my father too, I said slowly. Just in a different way. Maybe there's room for that. He nodded, emotion making his voice rough. I'd like that, Emma. I'd like that very much.